His name, I think this is his real name, is Joe Sixpack. He's the author of a book called Socialism Sucks Your Money from Your Pocket. Well, Socialism Sucks, ... your money from your pocket. Hey, Joe, how's it going, sir?
Good morning, sir. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. So just tell me a little bit about this book. Why'd you want to write it, and why does socialism suck?
Now, I could go on for days on that topic. Where it came from was I was out of country for about 10 years, and I moved back in 2010, and I was flabbergasted at how much socialism had encroached on society in general, and I was at the same time absolutely gobsmacked at how poor a job the Republicans/conservatives are at appealing to youth, whereas the socialist Democrats are very adept at, dangling the freebies in front of the young people and luring them in that fashion. And it was just really frustration. And, it's my own, I guess, people's little attempt to kind of be a voice in the wind,
Yeah.
appealing to not so much conservatism as common sense. Think for yourself kind of thing. I'm seeing very little of that with young people. The schools don't teach critical thinking anymore. They simply tell kids what to think, and it's not going to wind up well.
So I'm curious, you said you came back to the country. You were living overseas. You came back to the country in 2010. When did you leave the country?
2000.
Okay. All right. So you were gone for 10 years. All right. Now, I got to imagine that was kind of like some whiplash there, because the country was completely different back in the year 2000 versus 2010. I mean, you had September 11th in 2001, and then 7 years later, America elects a guy by the name of Barack Hussein Obama.
Oh, God. Don't
no,
even get me started.
I know, but my point is everyone wants to talk about how racist and bigoted our country is. Man, we had guys that flew planes into buildings from Saudi Arabia who were Islamic terrorists, and 7 years after, if you'd have told somebody on September 12th, 2001, hey, in 7 years we're going to elect a guy president named Barack Hussein, they'd have said, no way. And yet, America did. But so that must have been a giant whiplash for you to leave in 2000 and to come back in 2010 and be like, what happened to my country?
Absolutely. I mean, like I said, I was gobsmacked. But, that's the thing with this country. We become such an apologetic, hell, we had it under Obama. He went and apologized to the entire world and bowed in front of Saudi leaders. And, just absolutely mind-boggling. If you told me this stuff 20 years ago, I would have said you're all on crack. There's no way this is possible. And yet, this is what we do. But, look at, as you just mentioned, racism. Okay. We are the country that eliminated slavery in about 150 years. Why don't we have we're the guys who abolished slavery day instead of everybody, beating themselves over their head about, oh, we're racist. I mean, slavery was the norm in the world for the entire history. And yet, we're the country that eliminated 150 years, but we don't celebrate that fact. Instead, we beat ourselves up and say, oh, we used to have slaves.
That's
it's insane. It's sheer insanity.
Yeah, and on to your point, the left really never talks about the soldiers who were willing to die, in that what's sometimes called the War of Northern Aggression. But you had all of those northern all those northern soldiers. You would think that people would be like, wow. I mean, how many was it? I mean, was it 300,000? I mean, that's a lot.
I mean, there's more people killed in the Civil War than any other war in our history, or all the wars in our history combined. Yeah, we don't celebrate that fact.
Yeah.
Instead, we knock over Confederate statues. That's supposed to make us all feel good somehow.
Yeah. Let's see here. Roughly 1.2 million American soldiers have died in the nation's war. 620,000 in the Civil War. 620,000 died in the Civil War. I mean, that's incredible. All to to end this dispute. We're talking with Joe Sixpack, the author of a book. You should check it out. It's up at Amazon. Joe, can we show that Amazon page for our viewers who are watching? Socialism Sucks, Your Money from Your Pocket. I was just talking about something that I find kind of devious. And I know that socialism is appealing to young people. They've seen it maybe on a chalkboard in their Marxist college professor's classroom. And it's about freebies and free stuff, and you know, you got this college debt crisis right now that's getting people kind of enslaved to the debt system to where they're going to want more socialism because they want those debts to be wiped away. But I noticed something yesterday, and it kind of hit me. Socialism, we all know, Joe, makes societies worse off. It actually, you know, like you say, it sucks your money from your pocket. It makes people poor. It makes people less prosperous. Sucks, you know, makes your economy not work well. But they've combined that now with climate change. And if you combine it with climate change, and they say, well, if we implement these policies, which happen to be socialistic, we can control the weather. Okay, that's what they're saying. But they're also getting young people to want to save the planet by doing without, by being more miserable, by having less conveniences in life, setting your thermostat to 80, setting your thermostat to 55 in the winter. So it's pretty sick, because the young people are going to adopt socialism and not actually think it's going to make their lives better. They're going to do it willingly, so that they can pledge loyalty to the planet. It's like almost they're willing to be subjugated because they're so scared that we only have 12 years left. I mean, that dawned on me yesterday. What do you think about that?
It's you know, if it wasn't so scary, it would be hilarious. They've been beating this drum since the you know, with the impending ice age from Carl Sagan back in the 70s. And then, whoops, oh, we got it wrong. It's not an ice age. Now it's going to be global warming. Oh, well, now it's not going to be global warming. It's going to be climate change. It's going to go one way or the other. And there's always a crisis. You always have to create a crisis. So, yes, it's only 12 years. We have to spend trillions of... You know, it's all about impoverishing people. And what the young people don't understand is when these clowns say, let's soak the rich, they don't understand that the real wealth in this country lies in the middle class. So they're not talking about going after the billionaires who are way smarter than these, you know, bureaucrats and can stay ahead of the curve in terms of, you know, shielding their money. They're coming after your and my parents. That's who they're coming after, you know, the college kids' parents, the guys in the middle, you and me. Mm-hmm. And that's the big lie. And why don't the guys on the right point that out more clearly? You know, that's a big problem I have. And to be honest, I don't draw much distinction between a Democrat and a Republican. To me, they're politicians. It's more about them versus we, the people. But, you know, that being said, even when the cameras are on, how come they don't make that point? How come they don't drive that point home? We're coming after your parents. We're not coming after Bill Gates. We're coming after you. Because that's the idea, is to gut the middle class. These guys are control freaks. It's all about power and control, and nobody makes that case very clearly, with the exception, I guess, of maybe Rand Paul.
Yeah. So you think, you know, so let me just ask you this: if you shrink the middle class, if you gut the middle class, does that makes people poorer? So you have less freedom, so people are what? They're going to be incentivized to
dependent
to look to the government to solve all their problems.
Absolutely. I mean, where do you think all this illegal immigration is coming from? It's by design. They did it in Europe, and we're only about 20 years behind them, going down the same path. Let in all the illegals, create a dependent class. I mean, that's what they did with the black community with the Civil Rights Act. That was a boondoggle. You know, there was a brilliant guy, Democrat out of New York called Daniel Patrick Moynihan, who argued against it. LBJ, who used to refer to the Civil Rights Act as the N Act, said, I'll have this N voting Democrat for the next 200 years in response. Well, we're just seeing the same game played over 70 years later with a new dependent class. That's the end game.
I'm really glad you mentioned the immigration crisis in Europe versus the United States.
Europe is toast.
I know, but is that a coincidence that you have all these developed nations,
Hell no.
these first world nations, and they all can't control their borders? What are the odds of that?
Right. Yeah, it's all by design. And, you know, the funny thing is, back in the early 2000s, when I was saying this stuff over there, people thought I was just a whack job. And then, you know, maybe 8 years on, all of a sudden you started to hear these little voices popping up saying, you know, oh, we should control this, what's the term, multiculturalism doesn't work. I'm sitting there like, okay, so little simp me saw this stuff 10 years prior, said it, and I was a nutcase. Now all of a sudden you're starting to get people popping up saying it after the horse has left the barn. And it just, you know, it's mind-boggling.
You've got this Brexit situation. I mean, do you see that as a hopeful thing where at least you have England, or the people of England, not their government? The government doesn't want to leave. Well, Boris Johnson does. But do you see that as kind of a hopeful thing? Is it too late for Great Britain?
Yeah, it's too late. And it just shows you the distance in the mindset between the working class man and the elites. And the elites just, you know, oh, you're too stupid to know what's good for you, so we're going to take care of that for you. We're not going to enact that. Mm-hmm. That's what's been going on. I mean, hell, it's been dragging its feet for the last, 8, 10 years? Mm-hmm. I mean, that's where socialism leads, right there. I think it's a perfect illustration.
So what do you think the Republican Party can do? Do you think there's some people that think the Republican Party needs to paint better narratives, that the Democrats are really good at painting narratives? I mean, say what you want. I mean, they do things that try to, you know, prick your emotions. And that's how the Democrats get people outraged. That's how they get them thinking emotionally and not critically. I mean, but you say the Republicans need to better articulate why socialism is a terrible idea. Obviously, President Trump is doing that. He says, look at Venezuela. We don't want to be them. And I feel like stuff like that is it annoys the left, and I think it can be effective. But do you have any ideas what they should do differently?
How about everything? I mean, like I said, I don't distinguish a whole lot between Democrats and Republicans. This country was founded by businessmen. And over the years, it's morphed to where you have these people going to Ivy League colleges, getting law degrees, and going up there. We're full of lawyers who go up there for a career and to get extremely wealthy. That's the swamp that Trump got elected again. And I think more people need to focus less on Democrats and Republicans and more on the government versus we the people. Mm-hmm. And the Constitution was written to protect the individual from the government. And why does the left bang on that issue? Why don't they hammer that into people's heads? Because that's what it's all about. And, you know, if you want to talk about Republicans, quote unquote, they need to appeal to young people, and they do an extremely poor job. And to me, it's as simple as, you know, having two pictures. One, the guy sitting on a Hummer with a rifle and a Rolex, you know, and a cowboy hat, and the other one, you know, your typical San Francisco street crapper, and ask a simple question: who would you rather be?
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, so that's a
pretty,
really good point. Yeah,
simple.
Yeah, and use the visuals. Yeah. Well, Joe Sixpack, man, I really appreciate you coming on the program, spending some time with us this morning. I'd love to do it again sometime. Again, your book, Socialism Sucks, Your Money from Your Pocket. You can get it at Amazon.com. And Joe, I wish you the best of luck and all the success.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your time.